Welcome back to another episode of The Glorious Mess with me, Raymond, and my wonderful co-hosts, Bronwyn and Taylor. Today, we're diving into a topic that I think everyone has experienced. And if you haven't, you're lying to your goddamn self and you need to look into that. But is the topic of shame. And I think it's one of the most universal experiences. Everyone, raise your hand if you've experienced shame in your life. And if you're listening to this and driving, don't raise your hand unless you're an expert. But like, we don't condone poor driving habits, even though we all have. But we're talking about shame. We're talking about freedom through speaking about shame. There's a legacy across every religion, across society of shame, and I think shame drives a lot of how we project and exist in the world, and the masks that we put on and the validation we get, the things we buy. We're always kind of running from shame, and I argue that like we need to embrace shame and coexist with shame, I think, to move forward in a good way. So that's my opening ramble, and I thought we'd get started with a fun check-in question on the topic of shame. What's one embarrassing moment from your childhood that you can laugh about now?
I mean, I can go first because on that, I was thinking about it earlier, but also even just what you were saying about like letting the shame in and just go to get through it is exactly the only way I was going to survive this. Not that it was really that big of a thing, but like I remember being like on my first day to school in grade 8, like taking the bus really fucking early in the morning. And I wanted to go down to like see a friend of mine. And I'm at the back of the bus, you know, there's like the 3 little steps to go from like the back area to like the front. And I literally was about to take a step, and the bus just like came to like a halt or whatever. And I just went flying to the front of the bus and like ended up like entangled with like one of the poles at the front. And like everybody saw, obviously, this is like a conundrum. And you could see it on their faces where they like didn't know whether to laugh, didn't know whether to help me, didn't know whatever. And I kind of just had to like sit there with all of my bags and stuff, being like, just laugh. There's no way that we're gonna just move past this situation if we don't just laugh about it. And I'm gonna go back to my seat. Okay, thank you, bye. Yeah. First day too. On your way to grade 8, starting high school, bang. I was like,
literally. Memorable.
Sick.
Memorable. She's been an icon, a klutz icon from time.
Day one. Could never.
I feel like
go for it,
you
RJ.
Go. I feel like mine is like, oh, I've got so many, my God. But I distinctly remember like I had this bad habit of like, I mean, I was humorous. Like I loved everyone. I talked to everyone. I had no friends, but I didn't give a fuck. Like if anything, my extravagance was like tamed down by like people being like, no, you're too much. And so I remember like being in junior high school, and whenever someone would tell a funny joke or I would start like giggling, I couldn't control my bladder. So I always like peed a little bit. And so at this point in my life, I like always was wearing like baby blue like tracksuits that like are Shane. And so I just remember like the laughter starts coming and I'm just pissing my pants like and I'm like, oh my, and this is in the era of like people calling me fat gay. I have really no friends anyway, so like I shouldn't, you know. And so I'm like, can I just go to the bathroom pretty please? And thank God for those quick dry fucking pants. I'm like in the bathroom, like toweling off the urine, just drying it into my baby blue pants. And yeah, when I look at it now, you know, my body was just releasing joy and humor.
Releasing joy.
But releasing joy, coming to Broadway Joy Productions.
You couldn't contain the joy.
Nope.
I have a really hard time answering this question because I experience shame every day. But for me, it's like been all these like micro moments, and a lot of them are like socially. So it's not like, oh, I ran to the door of a bus, I pee myself. Like I don't have like things that happen. It was me trying to like socially be cool or like fit in, and then would get caught. and then like drive it home with like denial. For a few examples of that, I used to wear whatever I wanted to school, meaning I would recycle all my old dance costumes that we wore in festival and I would wear them to school. Didn't really have much shame about that. And like I thought it was cool until kids at school that were normal bullied me. But like in my brain, I was killing it. Like, yes, I will wear my
Yeah,
velvet red and black tiger unitard with the full tutu to my grade 6 photo. Like, what do you mean?
of course.
Um,
Yeah.
but it got more. There's a photo of me in my grade 7 photo, and I shaved my eyebrows off because I didn't to it hurt to pluck them, and so I just like held my forehead up between my uh eyebrows and just like took my mom's razor and like went straight up to try and get my unibrow, but obviously that like it's a wider razor. And then I just tried to pick up the like end of my eyebrow and close my eye and tried to go right under like on top of my eye, which then caught some of my eyelashes and then just like the tail end of my eyebrow.
And the
Um,
lashes.
yeah, so I
And
had
the
like
lashes.
I had like this nub. Tell me why the guy that I had a massive crush on in band sat in front of me and he never talked to me, but you best believe he talked to me that day when I came in looking like that. And he whipped around in the middle of band and was like, "Did you shave your eyebrows?" What did I say? No. What are you fucking talking about? I always didn't shave my eyebrows. Picked up my trombone, like kept playing. Like this is what I mean. I just would blatantly lie. So little things like that. Obviously, like flushed, beet red. I also just wanted to be like Marilyn Monroe, and I would draw on moles, but I would like change where they were like from day to day. And then still when people would ask me like, why do you keep doing that? I'd be like, they're real, even though I would come and like the next day it was on my chin and then it was on under my eyes. So like denial, shame, and like compulsive liar are like the pillars of my inner child.
Oh my God. Wow, those
Which
are
yeah.
all,
So I don't know.
that's so beautiful. And I mean, wow, I'm still processing.
I don't
I
even
But
mean,
think,
I
and
was
then you're
always
like, if,
shame
and then you're
and
like, if you
desperation.
can you laugh at them? And I'm like, I can't laugh at them, really. Like they're
Mhm.
funny, but I would just say I have more compassion for my inner
Yeah.
child, and I almost be like, damn girl, like you really tried to think, But I also like
Yeah.
good for me. I really just was out here being like
Doing things. You did whatever
doing
you
it,
wanted to do.
you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I think that gives us a good light note to bring into our newest segment, fast facts about the topic. Fast facts about the topic of shame. We're going to talk about
Shame.
just some quick little knowledges, some research things to ground our conversation and give you a little wisdom, especially if you turn off the podcast after this moment. At least you got something from us.
Yes, you don't have to like skip through 50 minutes of us thinking we're hilarious. Okay. I will start with my fun fact because it's about my life a lot of the time. So, fun fact, did you know that shame actually activates the areas in your brain as like physical pain? So it's the same, which is why, for example, a lot of the times when I feel shame, I get like really hot, my body's like buzzes, and it's like so it's a physical response as well. And not being able to process shame or like talk about it can actually form up in like chronic pain or physical pain in your body and stores it. And also, sub fun fact, people that are neurospicy or neurodivergent actually struggle with shame at a greater capacity than neurotypical people. So we have a hard time letting those things go. We like obsess over minute little details of our day where we felt those things like that are shameful. And actually, that's what led me to my ADHD diagnosis was figuring that out.
Hmm.
Fun fact.
Well, that also leads right into my fun fact because shame and like mental health are actually really, really tied. And a lot of the times, like social anxiety and also regular anxiety, and also ADHD to be like any type of thing where you really can't like what Ron was saying, let go, or like any kind of brain chemistry where like it's harder for your brain to separate those things, or even just process through those things. Shame is right there right there.
Look at that. Social anxiety and shame. Interesting. This has been mentioned
Yeah,
in all of
right.
our other episodes.
Who would have thought all these tie together? And
Well, I
again,
think also
back
just
to
anxiety.
true, yeah. And how anxiety manifests, it's so diverse, so nuanced, like the world. And one of the ways we can get our agency, our power back in these experiences is researchers are showing that if we talk about shame, if we express
Talk that
it,
talk, fuck that fuck.
then it's going to reduce the intensity and it's going to bring us back into our window of tolerance. It's going to help us to do all the other fuckery that we need to do and all the other shit in this beautiful, beautiful society. So spaces like this where we're going to share with you and talk about our experiences, we encourage you to go and talk to other people too about their experiences. And you'd be fucking surprised that like that cunty ass bitch that you want to beat the shit out of is actually just shame. And you actually could relate to her and you might be besties. You might go on a trip somewhere. Who knows? The world
I would
is
like
yours.
to be alone.
Wait, repeat that for me.
I
Yeah.
said I
What
think
was
I
the
would
first
like
part?
to leave shame alone. I don't know if
Leave
I'd
it.
want to take her on a trip with me. I don't know if I want to take shame going on vacation, but you know.
Well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but remember that trip you and Bronwyn went on? Shame was there. Shame's always there.
Shame tends to follow us a few times. And you know what we do? We reconvene the morning after and we talk about it.
This is
Yes.
true. This is true.
I saw the close friends. I saw the close. But now let's go dive in a little bit deeper and let's talk about some of our experiences. And so I'm curious, and we'll open floor for this one, but like, can you share a time when you felt intense shame and how you dealt with it?
Okay, so
I'm like
there's a
sweating
lot.
already.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, to be completely transparent, a lot of when I first started therapy, they talk about finding your inner child wound, and mine is actually shame. So I've experienced shame through my parents, like how I was what's the word? Not beaten, like disciplined. How I was disciplined was through an emotional context, and it wasn't like you've messed, it was very shameful. Like so how I was disciplined was always through a lens of shame, or you did this, and how disappointed versus like angry. um
Mhm.
and then as I got older, that inner voice, probably stemming from how I was talked to be disciplined, became my inner voice. So any decision that I made that was like slightly, I felt, shameful about, whether that was a social setting, whether that was abusing drugs, abusing boundaries, not holding myself up to a certain self-worth that I know I deserved, it would be shame spiral. Like that's always my first hit at things. And what we were kind of talking about before, it's really challenging as somebody who's neurodivergent to zoom out and give yourself compassion through those scenarios. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't really have like a one specific point, because it's something that I consistently have to work through, like day to day. Like
Yeah.
even when I was just on a Soyuz with my family, I like missed through a rope on the boat, and my uncle, everything in my family is by sarcasm, was like, "Wow, nice throw. Too bad you don't know how to do your job." And like to him, a normal person would be like, "Ah, ha, ha." And to me, I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god!" Like I actually failed. I sucked, and I had to like in those 5 minutes be like, "This is my family's humor. He doesn't mean it." Compose. It was my first time. And so then my reply was like, well, maybe if you had taught me better, I would actually be more successful. Right. And then reclamation of power. He laughed, confirmation that in this moment that my shame was my own story and that wasn't the actual scenario. So I'm on a tangent now how to wrap this up. So I think like shame shows up for me in my life like many different ways, but the biggest part is to be able to like zoom out and be able to be like, is this story that I'm telling myself really true? And if it is, how can I find compassion to move through that so that I can continue to grow and evolve and not hold on to it? It's like having a heavy backpack. You got to just like unload.
Yeah.
And see.
Mhm.
No, I definitely kudos for that, honestly. Like I feel like I know I'm not gonna, but like I think honestly kudos for that, because like my relationship with shame is very much like I haven't gotten to that final step of being able to talk through it and give myself compassion. Mine's a lot like a switch where it's like it will go into that shame of just like fuck, like of course I'd be the person to do that. Of course I'd be the person to fuck up. Of course I blah 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 whatever. So far down until the
Mm-hmm.
point where I can't even take it anymore to myself, and then it just becomes like, well, I don't fucking care anymore. You know what I mean? It doesn't even matter. Which is, like also like a good thing to get to of like, because it really doesn't fucking matter. So like the conclusion is still a nice conclusion, but how I get there isn't always, so still a bit of a rough and tumble. And like when I don't have one specific, it's like it shows up all the time, almost everything that I do. And then some things are more successful, so they don't get to the point of like full-blown shame spiral, and some do. And so that's kind of the battle that I have with like shame is literally always there and just waiting to be like, hi babe, hello, like no,
I wonder.
fuck off.
That's, and I think my hardest one to date would be when I got my DUI. That one, I think,
Yeah.
because I think I built a life around an image, an ideal self. And so as much as there was like mess and things, I don't know if I like was as publicly about it, because I really wanted to be respected. I really wanted to be someone people come to. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized, oh my God, by being myself, by being honest about these things, that's really how it happened. And I think with my DUI, like, it was interesting to see how I would tell the story to try to take away the judgment that I would get from other people. And there's so many unknowns in this circumstance for people listening. Like, was like a birthday, it was the middle of the day, but I had been up all night partying already. I was feeling hella paranoid and uncomfortable, and I started to like make phone calls, and I was calling my cousin to maybe pick me up, and then all my friends had left me. And at one point I'm like vomiting on myself outside of like a friend's in Toronto, and I didn't really know anyone at the time, so I was like, oh, and that person was like, no, you can't come here. But I was just like, I was paranoid. I had vomited on myself. This is the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday. Like, oh, what is going on? So ultimately I did go into my car, and I remember that I like started to think I could drive. And I just was like so scared for my life. I felt like somebody was like coming at me, and I was so scared. And then I drove a bit, and then I said, no, I cannot drive. This is unsafe. And I pulled over, and I passed out in the car and like slept. I vomited on myself again, and I shit my pants. It was what? And then I wake up hours later to a police officer with on a horse, like knocking on the window, like, sir, what are you doing, like sleeping in your car? Are you okay? And I was just like, I didn't know where I was, what city I was, like, oh, this, and thank God, like nothing bad happened. Even that little short bit of driving for like a couple of minutes before I realized, like, thank God. But when I first got it, then I was very in a like scared, shameful place, because I'm like, everything I built will be lost because of this. And I was like, my God, I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to jail for this. This is the end of my life. This is the end of my career. I'm going to have a criminal record. And it took me a long time to tell the truth of the story. I think I started telling a lot of people that I never drove and I was only in the car, but I know I did drive for like at least 2 or 3 minutes. Like, I know I did do that thing, and thank God nothing bad happened, but I know that happened. But I wouldn't tell people that, because I wanted people to feel sympathy for me and not judge me for being just a person who made a mistake, and maybe was surrounding myself with people who were engaging in substances that I wasn't familiar with, and whatever transpired. But it was hard. But the more and more I talked about the truth of the situation, I think, and opened up to like close fit, then it helped me like slowly open the doors. And then obviously when everything had resolved, and in the end it was not a DUI, I went to a careless driving ticket. due to the circumstances, and led to no criminal record, but it was still and a year of probation. It was still this like very chaotic, and I think I worked so hard my whole life to never be in the system. Like my cousin is in jail for charges of murder. We'll talk about it a different day. But there's people in my family and my life who've been like in jail, charged. This is like something I'm always like, this can never be my reality. And so I felt so much shame that then I was like, here I am. This is now my reality. I'm just like them. But in that space and through therapy and lots of time and working through it, I think like it became my humility, because it was like, yeah, but I sometimes think I may be better than some of my family, or better off than. And I realized in that moment that I'm no better. I have the same challenges, the same things I need to work through. And when I accept and I acknowledge them and I work with them and I make space and relationship to my family, my blood family specifically, then I find my way out better than being on a pedestal as this entity. So it was a really humbling experience. It was, as you both know, fucking wild. But thankfully something in the past that we can move on from.
Yeah, that's a really like the thing on like hiding like when we constantly try and like hide the parts that we don't want to admit or don't want to own up to about ourselves, or the things that have either happened to us or that we've done. That's also where like all the baggage comes from, because then like all of a sudden the second where you have to be like, okay, we're just gonna have to talk about it, we're gonna have to own up to the truth, like it happened, this is like, it does mean this and it does mean X, Y, and Z, but I then can do something about it, I then can go about it, I can then not let that be this whole part of my identity, rather the fact that like I was a human that made a mistake. I'm working with a mistake, versus the you know what I mean, when we try and cover it up, and then that's where all of a sudden it's like this huge mistake, and you're like, well, it was a mistake.
And mistakes happen, and I think that kind of brings us into our next deep dive, is like, how do we think that like societal expectations contribute to those feelings of shame, and then how are they exacerbated by like queer people of color? Like how does that then
Cool, damn. How much time you got?
Forever.
Look at us making jokes out of uncomfortableness.
I know. It's so.
I mean, yeah, there's so much stuff mentally that society has a huge play on, capitalism in general, marginalized community, like all of it. Like us as I think like as human beings don't belong in a place that is so structured in general. Everything becomes more and more compartmentalized, and then you grow up and then you have to pick which box you belong in, and then each of those boxes have their own set of rules or expectations or ideologies that get held up as like, okay, well, if you're considered somebody that is, it's like everything that you were saying about your DUI, you had set up this image, this of a Raymond Jordan Johnson Brown, like at that time, like choreographer, dancer, booked and blessed, I'm busy as fuck, I'm a boss, like nobody, like when it was all this very stuff, and then your human side isn't that, like, and or for all of us, right? And I think also the other side of that is fucking social media again, right? Like I think that is further a lot of like, and then even tying into what Vanessa was saying in her episode of imposter syndrome, right? Like imposter syndrome and shame are like cousins, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely a through line there. And I think even looking on social media, you can be shameful, like I'm not doing enough, I'm not showing up enough, or like, oh my God, for me, I'm like losing all my hair right now. I'm shameful of that because I think I've done it to myself somehow because of how I've previously decided to live my life, and it's my fault. My autoimmune system is mine because you get compacted into like all this weight that you're carrying around. And then of course finding those little bubbles that you belong in, like if you identify as queer, then that goes into like there's always somebody with opinion about shameful of being like not queer enough, two over here, two over that. And then so you're just constantly fighting that all the time. It's exhausting being alive.
Yeah. Well, and
Sometimes, you
it's
know,
also
like
like you know, like you were saying, like we have social media, we have documentation of it all, and it's permanent. So anything that you do, anything that you try and label yourself to or try and maintain, or even things of you're like, even when you're what's the word, envious of like, you know, like I want hair like that, I want nails like that, I want, you can go back to that image, you can go back to those things. So you can't actually come out of the cycle of letting something go, because you can always go back to that photo, you can always go back to that, well, that person said this, you know, when somebody does call you out, all of a sudden you're like, oh, but you were this kind of person and you did this. Now it's typed permanent. You can always go back to that comment. You can always go back to that voice note. You can always go back to that thing. And so that's also something that's hard to let go. Whereas when we didn't have internet, we didn't have those things, those mistakes, as soon as that person forgot it, what mistake?
Yeah.
Where?
Versions of yourself are supposed to die. Like as you evolve and as you grow and as you leave parts of yourself behind and step into more and more improved, ideally, versions of yourself. And the thing with the society now is there's receipts, right? And so you know, like you yourself, even as a person, like before, like your parents or whatever, like, oh yeah, your mom used to be a crazy party girl. I was like, I don't believe it. I haven't seen shit. No way. Absolutely not. You know, like you were,
before receipts.
you
Right?
know, right? And so even as this in your like psyche, like she doesn't see it, she doesn't have pictures of that, she remembers a vague part of her time, you know, in her 60s, and it was fun. Us, like, in whether, you know, yeah, I can delete social media or whatever, that means that all those people that used to be on your social media though have receipts and have seen your evolution, which means when you start to put yourself up again, being like, here I am, they're still like, yeah, but you go scroll down to the bottom at or like I still have, or, you know, I've literally run into people from my promoting days, literally 8 years back. And I literally walked up to this guy, he was at a show and he's like, oh my God, good to see you. And I was like, thank you so much. He's like, same old shit. I was like, oh, I'm actually not drinking right now, blah, blah. And he's like, that's crazy. I also got a video of you suck. Like, and I was just like, that's, I didn't even remember, to be honest. Like this is what I mean. And I literally was like, one, I haven't even thought about that. The fact that you still have a video, the fact that I am here saying I don't drink and you don't believe me, the fact that I said, oh, I have a partner now, you're not monogamous. Like, and it was just like, and I just had to sit, and I was like, why am I even trying to defend to you who I am now? But because he has receipts. Snapchat, Instagram, like all of it. You know, the memories that come up on your phone from your camera roll, where it's like the memory of RJ and I butt ass naked on a rooftop with a bunch of random people from an after party, and I got so many likes
the
because
fact
people
that
thought I
social media will remind you, like Snapchat loves to bring up, remember on this day or this
10 years ago, and you were
like, I don't want to remember. I don't.
Yeah.
I need to remember what I was doing.
People thought that morning, I remember, that we were just like up early enjoying the sun doing yoga. Like,
no, we were
literally we were
hadn't been to bed yet.
Hadn't been to bed yet.
I mean, shit, like, I mean, it was an endearing thing, but even like one of my friends just sent me a photo of me and another friend out on, like, we were cabbing, and we were out on the deck, and like the look that we were rolling, like, beyond belief. But I'm like, it was 4 years ago, not even, maybe less, and I'm just like, I didn't remember that. I didn't need to remember that. I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to know that that's what I looked like then. I mean, it was an endearing moment still, but even in those kind of things where I'm like, yeah, I was like that. That was a time.
And that
was a time.
It's so important, I think, to become conscious of our attachments to like stories about people and to these memories.
Yeah.
I went to a comedian last night and he was like talking about like, he's like, God, he's like, the suffering politics are so hard to deal with because, like, if you go to a person who's an identity, for example, and you're like, this person is gay, so they are now the the god of the gays, and they speak on behalf of the gays. But then what happens when the gay doesn't agree with this gay? And he's like, well, then you've got to go back and you've got to ask, okay, well, is that gay black? Okay, well, then we need to listen to the black gay one over the white gay one. But when you get two black gays, you're like, well, what the fuck do I do? And he's like, well, then in that case, then you look at the gender. It's two, whichever is the black woman gets, the gay black woman gets the listen to. And so it's like, in this society, in this world, in our identities and in our past versions of selves, how we hold pictures in time and bring people back to these places, we literally freeze them. Remember, like those stories of like people, I think it still exists, where people like get frozen in chambers to like hopefully one day scientifically get brought back. It's already it exists with the internet, where you put people in this moment in time and you freeze them there in that moment. And I think it's one of the biggest flaws of what we do, that we don't accept people in each moment, but we also don't accept ourselves in this moment. So often we go into the past or we go into the future. We never live and sit in this moment. And so it complexifies. It makes it hard to go through shame, get over shame.
Yeah, I also find that we don't look at each past, present, and future self with the same lens. So like,
or compassion.
Thinking about like, yes, but like, and yes, 100%. So like the past of like, our past selves are so negative. All of our self-talk towards the past selves is so negative, as if we didn't have any good moments, as if we didn't have any good characteristics, as if we didn't have, and then the same with the future of like, as if we're never gonna fuck up again. And that the future is so bright, and so, which it is, but it also is going to be just like the past and just like the present. And then like you were saying, RJ, that like the present, we never stay in the present, and we have no sentiment of good or bad or happy, sad, or anything in the present. It's just the present, and we tend to ignore it. And then, you know, we don't give the same compassion and happiness to the past as we don't also give the same sadness to the future.
Exactly. And so I feel like this is like a good maybe opportunity for folks. Let's each share kind of a hot tip we have for processing shame. Maybe it's like a therapeutic technique, a practical thing, personal anecdote on handling shame. And I'll start, so give you a second to think. But mine, I think, is like just it's been really, I feel like we talk about somatic all the time, but like really somatic, like knowing where the shame is in my body. I know the shame is in this space. And so when I'm feeling shame come up, I lay on my side with my like knees to like say my right side with my elbows kind of in front of each other. I realize this is audio, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see, but kind of crunched over into a fetal position, and then I just open up the one side to the other side to the left, and I do that, and I repeat the exercise, and I find it helps by doing kind of primal movements in repetition, helps my body move through. And so that primal thing can look like laying on your back with your feet on the ground and just raising your hips. So hips also like hold a lot of stress and anxiety for me too. So you know, pushing those hips to the ceiling and down has been, my God, game changer. What about y'all?
I try and slow my day down when like, so particularly when I'm in like a shame spiral, I find that, and obviously my life is my life, so it's not always going to be successful if I get a day like this to do this. But when I am in this mode of like, I have so many things to do and I'm in a shame spiral, it makes it worse. And so if I have the opportunity to slow my day down, where I will operate almost at a snail's pace. Like I'm not in a rush to get anywhere. I'm not in a rush to do anything. I'm not in a rush to answer anything. And I'm giving myself more time to just be, that I don't feel like now I'm like in a hamster wheel, and then it feeds the energy of like the shame spiral. And then now all of a sudden the shame spiral is bigger than I am. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%. 100%. Be run.
Be run.
I had so many thoughts, and now my brain's like nothing. Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, and I get really mean to myself when I'm feeling shameful. Like my self-talk gets really, really bad. and I can really put myself down really well, obviously, because you know yourself so well. So you're like, I know exactly what to say to myself to humble me.
Right.
Um, so I find not, and I dig my heels in. The last thing I want to do is fucking breathe about it. Like and I always feel so much better. But doing like deep breaths and almost like purging the physical, because for me, I'm
Oh.
like, even just talking about shame right now, I'm having the same physical response to how I feel when I'm shameful. Like as we've been doing this episode, like my throat's closing
Yeah.
up. I'm like on the verge of tears. All the things I've been shameful for of like the next 4 weeks are starting to come up to my brain. And I like,
Mhm.
if I have to breathe, like there's like the tube kind of breaths that Vanessa actually taught me, but it's through your diaphragm into your chest and then you let it go. So it's like
Let's all do
diaphragm.
it. Let's do it collectively. To lead us in a diaphragmatic breath for
Okay.
anyone who's listening right
Okay,
now.
so you start breathing into your rib cage if that's an easier way for you to think, or your diaphragm, and you just open mouth. So you're like and you do it
Oh
for
God.
like 10 minutes and you'll probably start crying or anxiety or whatever. And you just have to keep doing it over and over and over again. And like, yeah, there goes T. So
Sorry.
no, that's okay. Don't apologize. And it keeps and for me, I can imagine this like visceral cycle that comes through, and on the exhale, it like brings all of my emotions to the surface, and I let it go, and I breathe on my emotions to the surface, and I let go, and I do that over and over and over again. And then at the end, I go to my mirror and I hold my little face and I look at myself in the eyes and I apologize. Or I talk to myself. Like, and I'll just be like, and a lot of the times after my purge breath work, I will feel like I can finally look at myself in the eye, or I see myself, and the last time I did it, I literally was like, looked at myself and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm sorry I've like neglected taking the time to like process
Yeah.
and like hold compassion for myself. And then I will send
Mhm.
some bad bitch affirmations and be like, I'm healing, I'm doing my best, I'm fucking hot, look how cool my eyes are. And like, I literally will just like have a really big, like deep moment, and I'll finish it off with just trying to like reaffirm things that I am
Mhm.
doing really well. But it's
Mhm.
similar to what you were saying, like somatically, like you have to purge, because it's like what we
Yeah.
brought back. And like shame isn't something that's just in your psyche. Your body holds on to it. It triggers the same thing as physical pain. So it gets stuck.
Yeah.
It's a physical thing. I can also tell when I haven't been teaching or dancing regularly, my mental
Yeah.
health tanks because I'm not
Yeah.
physically moving. Like I will drag my ass to dance sometimes to teach and be like, in a spiral, and be like, I don't know how
Mhm.
I can show up for these people. I don't know how I can hold space. I don't know how I dare stand in front of the room and
Mhm.
encourage people to be authentic and that they're amazing when you feel like a poser
Yeah.
kind of.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
somewhere through the movement, we'll be doing that Damn Rise and Shine by Fiona Matthews. And I'll be opening up my chest and breathing and feeling my primal power and then feeling my strength. And then all of a sudden, I leave the room being like, I love my job. I love my life.
Literally.
I'm like, and so again, like if you're not a dance teacher, physical movement, breathing, full expansion, tapping into some form of your being that's primal, stripping all the societal bullshit and all the like. Sometimes I find like we over therapize ourselves and we have to like talk at all, but you can't get through to your brain if your body's holding all the tension still. You need to release all of it physically so that
Yeah.
the things that you're actually trying to absorb into your psyche get there. And so that
Get
that
there.
does it gives you a chance for that annoying motherfucker in your head that says all that negative stuff to be exhausted from all your moving. So then you can really just I mean, that's what I find works for me. Wow, I
I
really
mean,
need to do that for
I have
myself
to.
because I'm like was talking about it and I'm sweating and I'm like, I need to be talk to myself in the mirror, guys. I'll be right back.
No, but I have to agree. Like, I think that as much as I will bitch because I hate teaching on Sundays after shows, after I do it every time, and we always, hurrah. And then, of course, as we are, party girls will never die. And then I have to teach Sunday mornings, and now I'm like in literally the middle of a shame spiral, and now I'm teaching. but then exactly what Brian was saying is that like I literally halfway through the class, by the time the other classes, I don't know where the energies come from. I'm like on top of the world, life is great, da da da. And I'm like, wow, who knew? Just teaching a couple hours. Said it right.
And
Movement.
I'm gonna take leadership in our space because I feel like we're gonna say that's all on today's episode of Shay. I think this has been a heavy episode for us in delivering it to you in feeling feels. I can feel the tears behind my eyes.
Right?
But I'm
Yeah.
grateful. I think I'm grateful for the opportunity. I can feel the release, and as we enter into the cap full moon and all the amazing things, I'm just so grateful for you both and all the journeys and things that we share, and that we continue to show up and feel these very real things. I don't think life is easy. I don't think it's ever going to get easy, but you know, I think we chose, especially the three of us, chose to come here for a challenge so that we could make things better for other people. So that's all on Shay.
I will say thank you for doing this episode today, though. It's hitting in a very like pinnacle moment in my life right now. So I want to say thank you, RJ.
Yes, thank you, RJ, for creating this space and for allowing us to come in. And it is special. And what you were saying about life's always going to be hard, and it's not about the destination, it's about the experience. But it's even more important that you surround yourself with at least one or two pillar people that you can talk your shameful moments with, talk your imposter moments, be so vulnerable and raw that you're able to hold each other in the human experience, because everyone's going through some capacity, and it is a gift to be able to trust and hold yourself accountable and have agency to be able to talk about your reality of your emotions. It doesn't make them as scary, and it gives you power eventually, and that is the piece that makes it somewhat easier to continue to keep going. So have a vulnerable conversation this week, whether it's to yourself in the mirror, to your neighbor, to your mom,
To a
to your
tree.
partner, a tree, your dog, your pet, whatever it is. Just start talking, start moving through things. You're not alone in the feelings. You know, human beings are meant to feel and express and all those things. Yeah, shame is a universal emotion. And talking about it is the first step to healing.
Share it.
That was the
That's the
sentence I was
script.
supposed to say. And the
That's the
part
script.
that's the script. But the moment before was my authenticity.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And where are we going next time, Brahman? Where are we going next time?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about intergenerational traumas. If you can't handle two heavy podcast episodes back to back, neither can we. But we're gonna do it here first, because the work's important.
We'll do our best.
And then after that, we're gonna do a fun summer episode, because we're gonna be all together.
Yes, exactly. As we said last time, and then that didn't happen, but this time we really will be all together.
Yes, we'll be all together for real. Don't forget to follow us on social media.
Yeah.
That's all for this week. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care of yourself.